Welcome back to the weekend wrap. No production, just my thoughts. First things first, let me just say I've got a bit of a full house at the moment, so apologies for any background noise you hear. Try not to listen to any conversations. There's a lot of loud Jamaicans in the place, so you know how that gets. Hopefully they're all kind of docile at the moment, but we'll see where we go moving forward. I'm going to try and keep this one as concise as possible. It was there were some very good moments of this weekend, some not so good moments as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about it from, in my opinion, the worst card all the way up to the best one. So with that being said, I've got to start with Sky Sports and Boxer's KO Promotions collaboration card in Poland, which saw Lukas Rozansky taking on Alan Babic. Now, the undercard portion that we saw within the UK didn't showcase any of the female cards, so like Laura Grzeb and Maria Secchi. I was looking forward to seeing that fight. Haven't seen it. It's probably on a before the bell or some kind of prelims. I'll have to try and check for that. But Laura Grzeb won that, as I thought. Boris Crichton, I think he lost on, I think it was a UD or a split decision against whatever the other guy's name is. Apologies, I don't remember. Personally, from what I saw, I thought he did a lot of the better work, but I feel like the other guy probably did more overall. So not a huge complaint, but yeah, of all the predictions I got wrong, I got 3 wrong in total, and that was one of them. But it wasn't one I was invested in, so fine. Then you had, obviously, Mikhail Sislak versus, Brogolian? I can't remember his first name. Daniel, I think, is it Daniel Brogoli or something like that? Nothing major, nothing special. I was kind of expecting the stoppage. It happened. Move on. So the one that I had a bit more interest in was Martin Bakole versus Ihor Shevchevsky, or Hulk as he's known. I didn't really know much about him, but a 33-year-old Ukrainian. So obviously he started his professional career fairly late, but you would expect there to be some sort of merit or skill level there. Now, to be fair, his punch selection wasn't that bad, but just being someone that literally stands right in front of Bakole with very little movement apart from maybe a bit of head rolling. Bakole's got a very good punch selection. He's got no footwork at all, and everything is sort of from the waist up. That's pretty much everything you get from him. But if you just stand in front of him, he will pick you apart. I guess what was probably the best part of that is him obviously calling out Dillian White and Daniel Dubois, a couple other people, and then there's the videos of the backstage fracas between him and Dillian, obviously where they're in each other's faces. One thing I will agree with Dillian on, he said that a lot of these guys, obviously, they're going to call your name when the cameras are there, but would Martin have been as, sort of bold and brash at that particular moment if the cameras weren't there? I don't know. Obviously, that whole come upstairs thing was never really going to happen, I suppose, because Martin kept saying, yeah, no, I want it in the ring. So clearly he wasn't on the outside work, but I guess maybe the cameras being there and all the people being around was something that made him say, you know what, well, I can take this chance right now because it can't go left, and if it does, there's enough evidence here to vindicate me. All I did was call for a fight. On the broadcast, I need to put this out there. I've said it on Twitter, and I believe I've said it before. There is no way that Martin Bakole is 29 years old. I don't care how many times they run with that line, it doesn't wash. And the thing is, I can even say that with such certainty. Literally a couple of days ago, I rewatched the Martin Bakole versus Michael Hunter fight, which took place in 2018, October 2018, at York Hall in Bethnal Green. And on that broadcast, they put his age down on the broadcast as 26. So 2018 to now, 4.5 years. So at absolute minimum, he's 31. going on 32, depending on exactly when the age married up. That's the absolute minimum. So for them to now say that he's 29, I need someone to just release a copy of his passport. Like, you know, obviously wipe out the passport number. We don't need to see the personal details, but name and date of birth on it. Better yet, his birth certificate, because again, there is absolutely no way that man is 29, and even 32 is being generous. Quite frankly, I think he's near enough the same age as me, and I think I look younger than him. So, you know, that tells you a lot. If it wasn't for the grays in my beard, I'm definitely, no one's questioning that I'm younger than him, and I'm probably a year or so older, give or take. So yeah, there's absolutely no way that guy is in his 20s. They need to stop the foolishness with that. If you don't know his age, just say you don't know his age. It's that simple. Same with Alunga Makabu. He's definitely not 35. Like, he might be 39, 40. To be honest, he looks closer to 42, which is what would explain how he changed so drastically from his very last fight to the fight he just had with Badu Jack. Like, the movement, everything, the way he literally got old overnight. And that tends to happen when you're at those advanced 30s and early 40s. So yeah, anyway, outside of that, there was Lucas Rozansky and Alan Babic. Ended within a round, 2 minutes 18 seconds of round number 1. Babic got dropped in the first round, just as he did against Adam Bulski last year. I got that one spectacularly wrong. I thought it would be a distance type fight. I thought the time out of the ring wouldn't help Babic, and I definitely didn't really think it would help Rozansky, but I thought it might allow the punch resistance to sort of be there. I did think maybe they might have to get used to the punches of each other, but I guess Alan Babic just wasn't able to adjust to the punches that was coming back to him. Lucas Rozansky, very, very clever in the way that he set about Babic, just ducked under, duck and rolled, and then came with those sort of those tight hooks over the top, and Babic just couldn't adjust. He tried to come out jabbing to start with, which I thought he was going to do, but none of it was effective. He just got swarmed, he got drowned, and yeah, he sunk within the first round. It's a horrible look for him. You could say it's another L on the point of boxer at this point, you know, trying to take another person that's been heavy on Matchroom shows, and then they come over to you and don't ingratiate themselves that spectacularly. But it is what it is. In terms of Alan Babic, unfortunately, I think that's the end of his career at any sizable level. I don't think commercially he's not that guy. He's a fun character and I love watching his fights, but he's not going to get any meaningful fights right now. Definitely not at heavyweight, not at bridgerweight, not at cruiserweight. The only fight I could realistically see him having next would be like a fight against someone like Jack Massey. That is, you know, basically you haven't got Joseph Parker anymore. You had Jack Massey, who acquitted himself well. He might get himself a little deal with Boxer now. There's every chance that maybe that could be a return if he decides to go there. But I doubt Eddie Hearn's going to use him again, unless it's to be like a third on the card or a second on the card. And he's probably just going to be fed to up and coming heavyweights now to see, are they good enough to take the test. And if he goes down to cruiser, I feel like he's going to be in even worse position, because there's a lot less decent cruiserweights out there than there are sort of, you know, useless, slow plodding heavyweights that you can maybe, you know, bowl over, you know, the smaller guys. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but you know, that's the breaks. I hope he can get something else before he rides off into the sunset. But he said, you know, I want someone to knock me out. As soon as someone does, I'm finished, I'm done. Maybe that's the case, but we'll see. Maybe you can get one more. Okay, so moving on from there, let's go to what I would deem to be the second best card of the night, which was the card in Las Vegas, PBC Showtime pay-per-view, along with the Zone pay-per-view and the Zone around the rest of the world. I haven't been able to watch all of the fights on there. I literally have I decided to go to sleep and just set my alarm for the main event. I've seen the David Morrell Jr. knockout. Brilliant. I mean, I expected him to get the knockout. I didn't expect it to be in the first round, but I think I did say between rounds 1 and 4. I think I said that, but I definitely thought it would be early. In terms of the Melakuziev and Rosado fight, the rematch, I can't say I'm surprised, but I'm disappointed. I thought Melakuziev was going to try and take back that victory in blood. And I thought I went for the stoppage, and that's the only one I got wrong on that particular accumulator that I put out. So it cost me a bit of money. But fine, it is what it is. He got the victory. I haven't watched the fight yet, so I need to watch that later on my DAZN app. And yeah, it probably wasn't anything great shakes, but from what I was told, he was just a bit gun shy to pull the trigger, and Gabe Rosado wasn't even trying to box. He was just literally trying to look for that one punch, hit a quitter, and even he was a bit tentative to throw as well. So the Elijah Garcia fight, I didn't see that one. Again, I'll have to watch that back at a later time, but I expected him to get the victory, which he done. Talking to the main event. Okay, so first of all, my heart overruled my head to a certain degree. I thought particularly Ryan Garcia, because he has been dying and calling out Tank since January 2020, that he either saw something that no one else saw, or that he had just been studying, and that was the game plan. And as I said in the picks video, everything tells me that Tank should be winning this fight. He's had every single advantage that you can get, that you can request, that you can ask for to take this fight. And the intangible just said to me, Ryan there's a reason you've done all of this. It can't just be to basically do what he did in the ring. I thought that he had something that I didn't know about, that the people didn't know about, and that he was gonna get the victory somehow. I actually thought it would be via points, just by outworking Tank and trying to stay composed. Ultimately, he went out very first round, sort of perfect, didn't give Tank anything to bite on, was sort of jabbing away, imposing his will, offsetting Tank's everything was just clean off of that jab. And Joe Goosen said, perfect, stick with that, don't give him any openings. All of a sudden, I think he caught him with a backhand in the second round, and he just started trying to swarm him, and he just got over anxious, over eager, fell right into Tank's plans. Tank is a counter puncher. You don't give a counter puncher opportunities to counter you, especially not when you don't throw in combinations against a counter puncher either. He did all of that. Not only did he do that, he did that with his feet squared up. He was throwing left hooks over the top of Tank's head. So rather than trying to shoot that to the body, so if Tank actually tries to dip underneath it, then it lands to the head, he's shooting over the top of him, leaving himself exposed with no defense. Bang, goes down, gets straight back up. Can't really say much about that. He still kind of then bossed around a little bit. He went straight back into it, didn't sort of curl up into a shell. But after that, Tank just basically took over. Now, at everything he was now doing, he was making Ryan bite on feints. He was throwing shots just to see what Ryan would do with the reaction. So he was calculating all of that in his head, as Tank does. Third round, fourth round, fifth round was all pretty much Garcia at a canter. The third round, there's an argument you can maybe say that that Ryan Garcia got that one. There's an argument. I'm not saying that I gave it to him there's an argument. Sixth round, obviously he done very well in that sixth round to kind of rally back, caught Tank with some pretty heavy shots, and just kind of bossed that one a little bit. Comes to round 7. Now initially when I saw it, all I actually saw was him land on the top of Tank, and Tank, he gave a reaction like almost like a roar kind of thing. So I thought, oh, is he hurt? And then all of a sudden I see Ryan back off, and it looks like he's in his stance, and all of a sudden he takes the knee, and I was like, what happened there? What did I miss? And then he gets counted out. And look, when we talk about the body shots, we all know body shots can be sickening. They hurt, especially those delayed ones. They really hurt. But if you look at him, you look at his eyes are lucid the entire time. He smiles a little bit. He doesn't look to be in any visible distress. And then as soon as it gets to 10, he gets up onto his feet and then just walks off. He's not even holding his side at this point. Everything to me at that point tells me, unfortunately, he decided in that moment to quit. Like, that was him admitting either to himself that he couldn't get this task done and there was no point taking any further damage, or he felt as if I get up from here, it's a one-way street. I've been put down twice. I might as well just cop out now. I've made the money. I made the fight people wanted to see, and you know, for nothing else, my legacy, at least I can say that, you know, I took the fight and I made the fight possible, and I stopped them from having any way to get out of this fight. So I give him credit for that, because he took every piece of B-side availability. He got treated like the C side, even the D side in this fight. Everything, he capitulated on every single demand to make sure that the fight happened. So I have to give him credit for that. But in terms of the way he went down and the way he stayed down, I'm sorry, he did quit. You look in his face, you look in his eyes, and I feel like he done that primarily because to him, there's a built-in excuse. I was a little bit drained, you know, like I wasn't really feeling myself. I felt a bit slow. I felt a bit sluggish. All of that is there. And even if he doesn't say it, there's people that will say it instead, because I heard a lot of people after, you know, oh, you know, could the weight have been the issue? Would that have been the reason why he didn't take the shot that well? And, you know, that everyone's going to make an analysis and a guess as to what happened. And I feel like he's kind of using that to his advantage. Obviously, if there was no rehydration clause, if there was no catch weight, like, there's nothing you can say. You took the knee and you stayed down against the guy that you said, oh, he's a lot smaller than I thought he was. You know, he's a little guy. So you let the little guy stop you. And but yeah, I mean, ultimately, what does it lead to? Nothing. Tank Davis is not going to fight Devin Haney. He's not going to fight Lomachenko, especially if Lomachenko gets beat by Devin Haney. There's absolutely no reason for him to then fight him. He's not going to fight Shakur. The absolute next thing I can see happening, because look, we don't know what the pay-per-view numbers for this is going to be yet, but I'm assuming they're probably going to be around 490 to 520 in the US, which is, you know, what's that, like 100, and that's almost like 130% above what Tank normally does in terms of his revenue. So he can't even really claim that, because he's done 5 pay-per-views. All of them have been in and around that 200,000 mark. So anything that happens above that, you've got to attribute a large portion of that also to Ryan. So the next thing is, okay, well, how do you now keep that momentum to say that, no, it is you're the reason why that happened? You've got to take a tough fight. I don't think there's going to be a tough fight. I think it's going to be a rematch. My personal insight into this is that Rolly Romero is now going to, knock out Ismael Barroso for that WBA 140 legit title, and Tank's going to move up there and rematch Rolly for the 140 belt and win that. And I feel like that's going to be the next thing moving forward, and then they might come back down to 135 for Isaac Cruz rematch if Cruz does anything of significance. Maybe he might. The only other potential option is maybe like getting George Kambosos in the ring, a former unified, champion at lightweight, who, if he beats Maxie Hughes, then that then becomes a very credible name to put on your record. So look, that's my particular opinion. My heart probably went a little more over my head. I thought there was more intangibles to this fight than there actually was, but Ryan is not an elite fighter. I don't think Tank is an elite fighter either, but Tank is several levels above Ryan. So in terms of what Ryan does next, I've got no idea at this point. He says he's going to go up to 140. He said he was out of the game by 26. So chances are that's the case. So yeah, moving on, because there's not really much more to talk about that. To me, it wasn't a big fight. I didn't really feel it was a big fight. I didn't feel any of the promotion made it that big of a fight. and ultimately it was very underwhelming. It wasn't a great fight to watch either. So let's talk about the event that actually did impress on the night. So we got the Matchroom card in Cardiff, which was Shavkat Rakhimov versus Joe Cordina for the IBF Super Featherweight title, and it was retain or regain. Now, undercard status, Jordan Thompson against Luke Watkins was a very entertaining fight, but I feel like it was more entertaining than it should have been, realistically. Knowing sort of Luke Watkins' level, he's a good, he's a decent level guy, but for someone of Jordan's ilk who's supposed to be, on the ascendancy, I feel like he got caught way too much in between shots. I didn't really feel like his movement was that great. He was very static as well. I don't know if he thought, oh, well, I just don't respect this guy, so I'm just literally gonna stand here. I'll take what I need to, but I'm getting him out. But in doing that, I feel like it dropped his stock a little bit. Like I feel like his performance was a lot better in his previous fight against Vasil Duka, even though he got badly wobbled right at the end of the fight. So I don't really know what he's been doing at the Matchroom gym with Tony Sims and that, but obviously I know a lot of time the first fight is never the best one with a new trainer, so gotta go through. I'm gonna give him a couple more just to see if I see more improvements. But his punch variety is great. He's got very good punch variety, very heavy-handed. And there's definitely talent there. I just don't know how much. I need to see it at a bit of a higher level. Although saying that, I'm gonna be a hypocrite. I actually think he should stay in and around this level for another 1 or 2 fights just to fully integrate into his new team. There was the Gavin Gwynn versus Craig Woodruff fight, and that fight it keeps baffling me. It almost keeps boggling my mind, because this Craig Woodruff, his name is even Craig Smiler Woodruff, and every time Eddie Hearn used to say Craig Woodruff, I'll keep thinking he's about to say Craig Richards. So the fact his name is Craig Smiler Woodruff, and then you got Craig Spider Richards, it sounds like someone's trying to play off of someone else's name there. It just, every time I hear it, it feels weird. Anyway, I predicted that Gavin Gwynn would win this fight. I thought it'd be points, to be honest, but he ended up getting a stoppage in, I think it was round 5 or round 6. Good on him. Woodruff literally just decided to sit on the ropes, and it's almost like he was trying to ride some shots with his face and trying to slip the others. He fired back. He was fairly game, but the writing was on the wall pretty much from the 3rd round. I feel as if I'm forgetting. No, actually, I'm not forgetting a fight. There was the Zelfa Barrett fight against Jason Sanchez. I predicted that was going to go to points as well. Zelfa Barrett he's a very sort of fast twitch type of guy, very sort of jittery, which can obviously offset opponents. But I feel like as much power as he's got, he throws his entire body into every shot that he throws, like with power. And if he doesn't get a person out of there within the first sort of 6 to 7 rounds, that fight is undoubtedly going to points, because like you can just tell he burns up a lot of energy in those early rounds. If you cross compare sort of him to someone like Joe Cordina, even though he moves as well, his movement is very fluid and very smooth. Like Zelfa Barrett's movement is very twitch, it's very sort of fast twitch. It's very like big step, jump, almost like a mini jump out the way rather than a glide. And I feel all of that just sort of eats through the gas. So when you've got someone that's like pressuring you, like Jason Sanchez started to do towards the end of the fight, you see him just basically starting to look for counters. Now, to give him his credit, he overcame a lot of the early work from Jason, because Jason was there just trying to basically out volume him and just trying to overwhelm him, and Zelfa tucked up pretty well. Obviously first couple rounds he actually landed some really devastating shots. I think he took Jason down, I think it was the 3rd round that he knocked him down in, which then said, okay, this could be problems. It was either the 3rd or the 5th, it was one of them. But credit to Jason Sanchez, I thought he would be tough enough to survive Zelfa, and again, I didn't think Zelfa would do enough to sort of get him out of there, especially like with the really heavy work. Like he lands one shot, he never really follows up, he always lands almost admires his work, looks, resets, and then tries to go again. The back foot counter fighting, it works to a degree, but yeah, he might need to add a couple extra wrinkles in his game, especially if his next fight is going to be the voluntary against Joe Cordina. But quickly, if we go to obviously Sandy Ryan against Marie-Pierre Huel, I said on Danny's channel, Fight Fan TV, if you saw the neutral corner, that if she was ever going to win a world title, this was going to be her easiest route to it. Marie was very sort of active in the first few rounds, trying to swarm and pressure Sandy, but Sandy being a very good boxer puncher, she used to be more of a pressure fighter, but she's definitely more of a boxer puncher now, who actually does do a lot of back foot fighting when she wants to. But she looked a lot bigger in there than Marie, who campaigns at those weights naturally. So Sandy clearly cuts a lot of weight just to get to 140, because she's definitely a very statuesque, very big girl naturally. But Marie hung in there, like she got dug to the body a few times. She caught Sandy with some good shots, but she ate a lot of good shots herself. But both women tough, grinded it out. But Sandy Ryan wins that. So now the agreement is in place for her and Jessica McCaskill. So I'm actually very looking forward to that fight. I'm not going to give any predictions or any insights into it as of yet, but congrats to Sandy. Now look, to me, fight of the night, unequivocally, no questions asked, and definitely to me, it has to be a fight of the year contender. We've had some decent ones already this year, but this one to me, incredible. Shavkat Rakhimov versus Joe Cordina. It had pretty much everything. You had Shavkat Rakhimov applying incessant pressure, especially from sort of round 4, 5, 6 onwards. You had Joe Cordina landing some beautiful combinations and some beautiful counters in the first half of the fight. Movement was silky smooth, like everything about him he was just gliding. But Shavkat, that incessant front foot pressure that he applies, and a lot of it is, even though he's a textbook pressure fighter, I almost feel he's more of a pressuring boxer puncher, because he lays everything off via the front hand. It uses the jab. He doesn't just, swing. He doesn't basically just swing everything from that stance. He measures everything with that jab, but he just keeps that front foot moving forward till he can find range to dig body shots. And he was definitely working towards Joe Cordina's body throughout the entire fight. I think Joe put him down. Was it the second or the third round with a counter left hook? No, sorry, it was a left straight. He came round the side of Rakhimov as he was trying to throw, and as he caught him off balance, bang, straight down the side, and Rakhimov falls to the ground, and you're like, oh, this one could end early. But he's got those powers of recovery. There's nothing, there's not really much you could say. After that, I feel that Joe thought, okay, I can take him out a bit later. I think he took his foot off the gas a little bit, and by doing that, he allowed Rakhimov back into the fight to just, try and pressure him, wear him down, invest to the body. Like, Joe's legs were pretty much gone by round 9, round 10. After that, everything was tuck up and try and hit on the counter. But it was a fantastic fight, 12 rounds. The scorecard that Rakhimov had, the 116-111 scorecard, was horrendous. But if he had a scorecard of 114, 113, or like even actually no, that's pretty, the most I could take is 114, 113 for him, or potentially a one. I guess it would have been one. No, he would have lost any other. I could give him 6 rounds. There's an argument that you could potentially give him 7, which would have made the 114, 113 just off of activity. But Joe Cordina was landing a lot of the cleaner work, and a lot of it was a lot more effective. So yeah, 114, 113 you possibly could have got away with, but outside of that, it would have been a 114, 113 to Cordina the other way, because of the knockdown especially. So yeah, the right person won at the end. Cordina wants unifications. There's a Shaki Foster. There's Emmanuel Navarrete. Who's the other champion at the weight at the moment? Those are the only two I can remember off the top of my head. Oh, Robisi Ramirez as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, all of those are viable. I think the closest one that you could probably get would be Robisi Ramirez, to be honest. I don't think you're going to get Navarrete at this moment, and I don't think Joe's ready for that one just yet. And Oshaki Foster, you know, unless the PBC are starting to play nice with others at the moment, I don't know if that one's going to take place either. But that will definitely be a very good fight. But look, I'm going to leave it there. I've got a few things I need to do. That has been sort of the weekend wrapped up. So that is my list. It goes obviously Rozansky, Babic as the worst card of the night. Then the middle card was obviously Davis versus Garcia. And then, yeah, standout card of the night for me, standout fight of the night was definitely Shavkat Rakhimov versus Joe Cordina. So that's the weekend all wrapped up. Yeah, I'm going to see if I go to the gym, come back, and by the time I come back I should have another episode of the Femme Files ready to drop. If I can't do it by about 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight, then it will come out first thing in the morning, but that will be done today. So thank you very much for watching. That is the weekend wrapped up, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.